All right, start to make your way back in. We're going to get started in about 2 minutes.
All right, everybody, we're going to go ahead and finish the final couple sessions. Just a quick housekeeping note for this one. This is a combined session, so you won't have to get your scanners scanned until the end of the session before we leave for the day. All right. For this one, we've got Miss Vena Jones. Miss Vena Jones is the manager for the SRF and the SWIG department with TDEC. It's TDEC, isn't it? With TDEC. She's also the one that's the head over the ARP funds. So she'll be talking about, fading out a little bit, she'll be talking about that today. So if you have any questions about that, she's here to answer those. So I'm going to turn it over to her and let her get going with her presentation.
All right. Can you hear me, guys? I talk really loud, so my husband can probably hear me all the way to Nashville with this thing on. Gracious. Good morning, everybody. So happy to see such a full room, knowing that I am like the only thing standing in between you and a good weekend, right? This talk. So we'll try and make it painless. We certainly want to have a good time, right? Want it to be entertaining. I won't do a song and dance though. I don't dance. But we will cover a lot of information, and like Ethan said, I'm here to take your questions. I can answer questions all day long, and no question is, no questions off limits as long as it pertains to these things. Let's see. This is a video. I don't know. Do you think we can play it? I don't know. So, if you go to the TDEC American Rescue Plan website, we have a lot of resources on there. We recently updated for this video to help reestablish our memories on where we've been and where we're going. Because the American Rescue Plan, uh, local and state fiscal recovery funds, was COVID relief money that was issued to the state of Tennessee in 2021. And we started to obligate that starting in 2022, 2023. Is it not going to play? Let's see. Nope, it didn't play, but that's okay. So if you guys remember, and if you don't, that's okay. The state of Tennessee was issued $3.75 billion of American Rescue Plan funds, and the governor and his team decided to provide TDEC, Division of Water Resources, 1.35 billion of the 3.75. We made a pitch. We not like a talking pitch, but we wrote a policy paper and asked for the money to distribute it in multiple ways. And so far, we're doing a pretty decent job. Actually, y'all are doing a pretty decent job. This is my pointer. So the non-competitive grants, we have $997 million obligated. That is frankly quite amazing. Does anybody in here have American Rescue or participating in American Rescue Plan grants? So when we did that $1 billion obligation, they said, "Oh, you're not gonna get that much. You'll be lucky if you get 500 million." And 98%, 99% of you are like, no, no, we want that money. We want that money. So you guys all applied. You can see that you can see that almost all of you have started your projects. Um, the funds available for disbursement. This slide is a little bit out of date. The next slide will show more money. We have hit the over $500 million mark, which means utilities have properly advertised and procured for services and contracted with a vendor, either construction, engineering, grant administration. And over this says 471 million is available. It's actually over 500 now. And funds dispersed, we're at about 136 this morning. The competitive grants, y'all might have competitive grants in here too. We did 214 million. We got full participation, more than we even thought we would for sure. And those are starting up. Those started really this year, so they're moving along well. The state strategic projects are primarily is TDOT and Tennessee State Parks. Uh, they can utilize big money, and if any of this money falls through, no, they'll probably put it right here because TDOT and the state parks can consume that money before you sneeze, right? Um, the state strategic projects local grants, 36 million, 26 million obligated. The difference between 36 and 26 it's about 9.8 million. That is actually a contract that we were in the midst of signing with Irwin Utilities the week before Tropical Storm Helene hit. And the money's still theirs. I just haven't officially signed that contract yet because I think they need to figure out a little bit more how much recovery. Their wastewater treatment plant, gone, right? It's still there, physically there, but it's definitely not functioning, and probably won't function. They probably need a brand new plant. They're going to have a lot of work coming up on them. And then it costs us a lot of money to administer. If you guys have American Rescue Plan grants, you know that the state of Tennessee has contracted with Ernst Young, a third-party consultant that I manage, because we were unable to convince the legislator to hire a whole bunch of new state staff. So they said private business is better, and we said, okay, we're going to do that. So as of last night, I went on the website last night and got these totals, right? So procurement submitted 542 million and approved 523 million. Means like guaranteed, right? As long as you complete the contracts that you all have in place, we're guaranteed to spend 523 million. Total paid out as of last night was $137 million. I will tell you, I do have some concerns about the reimbursement requests that I've seen lately for $1,000, $5,000. I know that's a lot of money to me, right? I don't walk around with $5,000 in my pocket or 1,000, but it takes the same amount of time to process a $1,000 invoice as it does a $1 million invoice, right? The same amount of time and manpower. So I would recommend that you hold off, right? And you actually amass a little bit more, instead of turning in a whole bunch of small ones, because that can deter from the customer service we provide to everybody, because we're dealing with a whole bunch of little tiny ones. So if you're thinking about your invoicing process and you want to hit that every month mark, that's great. If you don't have any more than $5,000 to request, that's fine too. But realize you can only ask for reimbursement once a month. And the larger the invoice, really, the better off for all of us, so we can help move that money through the system. This is amazing to me, right? 1,600 approved contracts. Y'all have a lot of contracts. And I loved this number right here, 922 engineering procurements. Do we have 922 engineers in the state of Tennessee that are focused on water and wastewater infrastructure? No, we do not. Everybody is tight for engineers. So know that the engineer that you have procured for also has a lot of other ARP projects. And when I talk a little bit about milestones in a second, this will become really important, right? An important part of the conversation. We are stressing the engineers in the state of Tennessee. We have put a lot on them, and they are dealing with a lot of ARP projects. I don't mean we should give them a break. They're engineers. I'm a geologist. It's my job to harass engineers forever. So, right, like we're not going to give them a break, but and this 474 construction projects. Rock on, people. We need to double this, right? This number actually needs to double for us to get all of the work done that we proposed in the 1,291 projects. But amazing, right? Amazing. That is a lot of yellow iron working across the state at the same time. So really great. Our reimbursements, you know, we've got grantees with submitted reimbursements, 262. How many grants did we have though? For the non-competitive, 339. And if you look at all of them together, do we not have totals here? It's about almost 400. It's like 392, I think, contracts in total. So some of y'all are missing out. How do I know you're missing out? Well, because we have forced everybody, and forced is the word that I choose, we have forced everybody to get on that procurement train and secure vendor contracts, right? Make sure your projects have started. And if your projects have started, you're spending money. And if you're spending money, you should be coming to me for reimbursement. There's over 100 of you that have not. So make sure that you're properly communicating and keeping your eyeball on your grant administrator and what they're communicating. And if you are a partner, right? How many here are utility districts that participate? You ain't got no control of that contract, do you? No control. Most of the time, the problems that we have, a utility district, Anthony calls me up, Anthony's yelling at me, Vena Jones, where is my money? I need my money. And I say, yes, sir, Anthony, yes, sir. But it's actually a lot of times not our fault, right? Because that invoice has to go to Warren County. Then Warren County has to get their grant administrator to submit that invoice to the grant management system. Then we review it. We take too long. I'll say it. I keep every day, I pound the pavement. It's got to be shorter. It's got to be shorter, faster, faster, faster. When we issue that check, we don't issue that check to Anthony. We do not issue that check to Anthony. We issue that check to Warren County. And then Warren County has to cut a check to Anthony. So it can take time. It's important that you recognize that time, you plan for that time, and you press your grant administrators and the owners of that grant contract to keep you in the loop so you know what the time issue and how that's unfolding, right? Many times these counties and municipalities have information on file with the state that is so out of date or so confusing. I can't even explain to you what it's called. It's Edison Supplier Maintenance ID, blah, 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 and their bank accounts. We have some systems who have 20 entries. We wish they would clean them up, but the cities and counties have not. That can create a problem when you start getting checks issued, at least for the first time. So know when that first check issuance is going through, if the county or the city hasn't got their bank account information right, they got multiple addresses, they got a PO box and a street address and an account here and an account there. It's going to take extra time because our auditors are very, very specific. And they got their eyeballs on it, and we have to make sure all of that is very just deliberately laid out in all of our information. So just know that. But I mean, 500 requests approved, that's pretty good. I work really hard to push EY and our team to get the number between requests received and requests approved below 50 or below. That's my goal for procurement and reimbursement always, not to have more than 50. When it's 100, I say that's a lot. We need to push it down. So know that we're working on that and hoping that we start to see faster paced submissions. We are instituting about 8 different streamline options for reimbursement, trying to make that process go faster with EY. But I also want you guys to know, even though we have used Ernst Young and they are the primary reviewers, for procurement and reimbursement in the grant management system, they aren't the end of the line. And I've tried to make them as close to the end of the line as possible. But the state government, the governor, Jim Bryson, commissioner of FNA, those folks will not allow me any leaner process. And here's what I mean. EY gives you guys a review of that reimbursement. They do a pretty thorough review. And then they switch it over to my team, SWIG, State Water Infrastructure Grants. And we have to do a review. And that has to be approved by a manager. And then it goes to fiscal with a baby F. And they have to review and approve it. And then it goes to big F&A, finance and administration. I have tried to say, let's cut us out. I don't need to be involved. I don't need to be involved. Let's get it from EY to F&A or or small fiscal. And because there is such significant concern about potential audit findings and clawbacks, right? The purpose of that multi-program review also is a little protective, right? And I know it doesn't feel protective. It's kind of like we tell our kids, I'm doing this for you, you'll thank me later. I'm doing this for you guys. You'll thank me later, I promise. It's to ensure that you don't have any audit findings. We don't experience clawbacks. I can't tell you how much I deal with auditors every single year, right? This program, American Rescue Plan, has already gone through 2 really deep audits where I spend almost an entire month, and many people on our team are interviewed by auditors. We're forced to go through all of our processes. They watch everything that we do. They look at all of our SOPs, and they actually look at they actually audit a percentage of the transactions that we do, right? So it is being heavily scrutinized. That's okay, right? As long as we know that, just do what we're told, no big deal. But do understand, we're trying to minimize the amount of our team can only have it 2 days. SWIG team can only have a reimbursement 2 days. That's it. That's the max. If not, we have issues, right? The next team. So trying to make that all fit together is difficult, but I think it has gotten better over the past year. Anthony, has it gotten better? Oh gosh, he doesn't even give me. Yes, sir. So average time from start to finish, well, when after this talk in the break, I will tell you because I'll pick up my phone and I've got a little graph that says what the average time is. EY is telling me their average time. I don't like average. I want to know how many are more than 30 days is really what I want to know, right? Average can, mask that. I think it's around 10, which seems really low because but I do hear more issues than I hear praise, right? And that's just the nature of that's the way we are, right? I'm the same way. So I'll check. I'm gonna walk over here and get my phone just because you said that. My other phone. So milestone updates. If you have an ARP grant, I hope I don't mess anything up. They told me to only walk on one side, and I've already broken the rule. If you have an ARP grant, you know that we have milestones. And the milestones are intentional because the governor's team is very concerned that all of the grants are not going to consume all of the money that all of the grantees have requested in an appropriate amount of time. I've laid out this grant life cycle, right? And we try to be pretty intentional, and it's helpful so that you understand work takes time, but if you don't start now, you never get to project closeout by September 30th, 2026. There is no extension, right? There is no contract extension. The state of Tennessee does not have legal authority. We do not have legal authority to extend your ARP contract. If Congress, Big Daddy Congress, passes legislation or provides an amendment to the legislation that authorized American Rescue Plan dollars and extends that deadline, then the state of Tennessee has the authority to extend your deadline. I will tell you now, I've said it before, I've said it since 2021. We have no idea if Congress will extend the deadline. They cannot even agree on a budget, right? We have a continuing resolution, but I mean, that's just, how it goes. I don't know that Congress is going to get more together in line, unified, to care enough about authorizing an extension to ARP before the deadline is nearly upon us. I predict, right, in summer of 2026, Congress might say, you know what, we're going to give you guys an extension. By that time, it is absolutely too late. The state cannot shift that easy, and we will have already taken that money away from you if your project is not on these milestones. Every week, I get an email. I have an email in my inbox right now. I was just reading this morning from Commissioner of Finance and Administration, Jim Bryson, because the governor's team wants to know how many utilities in East Tennessee were affected by Helene, and therefore they probably can't get those projects done. So we need to take that money away. Not in a callous way. They're like, we'll get them other money. But the governor's team is very intent on not giving a single dollar back, not one, to the federal government. Okay. Our water infrastructure program is 1.35 billion of the 3.75. All other state departments divided up the rest of that, whatever that is, 1.4 billion. That's the Department of Education, Health, all those guys. We got the bulk. One program got 40% of the funds, more than anybody else. So they have a very laser focus on how we're doing. I've shown them this slide, right? I've told them this. They said, well, how do we know projects are going? What, we need updates. I said, you need to be comfortable with the quiet. The quiet is folks working, right? There's 400 plus construction projects going, and a lot of people are right here planning and design. But that means that those engineers that have 922 contracts are under a lot of pressure. And this milestone schedule is meant to keep the pressure on, right? I don't like to be here and be like, right? I used to be a regulator. I got out of that business because it was too bossy. But if I don't establish these milestones and ensure that y'all are meeting them, they will come and take your money away. It won't be me, but they are looking for funds to take back so they can reprogram, so they can guarantee we use that money. We're past 1, we're past 2, we're past 3. Some folks didn't do all they needed to do here. This one is super, super important right here. January 30th, 2025, plans and specifications requirement at 60%. If your engineers don't have this, you are in trouble. You're in trouble. And consider your funding in trouble. If you are an at-risk entity and you know that you have been part of emails or meetings where you haven't met milestone 2 or you haven't met milestone 3, there are some. As soon as we turn that corner to January 2025, not the 30th, but I'm talking January 2025, and you still have issues here or issues here, your money will be reprogrammed. You will no longer have control of that money. That money will be gone. I can't control it, right? I'm a patient person. I am more like, I'm a roulette player. I'm like, let's let it ride. Let's let it ride. It doesn't matter, right? For me, I think that using the money and allowing folks to be able to use it as much as possible and then giving some back is okay. They didn't put me in charge. I mean, they kind of put me in charge. My in charge is pretend in charge, right? They make me come up here and say the hammer stuff, right? And then they have those closed door meetings that they don't have to advertise to the public. I don't know. So, right, milestone 5, May 30th, plans and specifications requirement. If it ain't turned in, you will not, by the summer, you will no longer have your money. And construction starts. If we can't do a site inspection by November, December, because your project hasn't started construction, again, you'll have your funds revoked. So, you know, how are y'all doing in general? Well, 100% met milestone 1. Woohoo! 316 grants met milestone 2. There's 6% right there. 312 met milestone 3, 7%. There are some entities, and if you don't know because you are just a partner, I won't say just, if you are a partner on a project, you better ask. And if you don't have a signed engineering contract for your planning, design, and construction, or a signed construction contract for your construction only, or a signed engineering contract for your planning and design projects, you are in danger. You are on that list. You are part of this. Because milestone 3 said all the procurements that you've done, your bid documents don't satisfy. We have to see your approved contract. Your approved contract means you have a signed agreement with a third-party vendor. So please, if you don't know, come see me. We'll hang out. I'll break out my computer. We'll talk. I don't want anybody to lose their money, right? I don't want anybody to lose their money. So this was milestone 3. All projects that submitted a pre-bid or pre-award documentation, that means you submitted what you were going to advertise, must have submitted an awarded contract for those projects by September 30th. Projects that miss milestone 2 are still expected to move to the awarded stage. Projects that are late must catch up by December 31st. Why that? Because they will be placed on a list for termination. If we round that corner into 2025 and y'all don't have signed contracts and those projects aren't started and we can't verify it, they're making me verify every single one of them, your money will be taken back. There are some exceptions. Thank heaven for exceptions. Asset management plans. I completely support. You're not doing your asset management plan yet because you're busy putting assets in the ground. You can't complete an AMP until you know where they're going to be on the ground. That's fair enough. Fair enough. So asset management plan projects, you've got an exception, but you'll have to have that procurement in place by this time next year, right? You have to start that AMP by this time next year. Associated procurement projects. So sometimes we get an engineer, the engineer's over lots of projects. They're saying this advertisement, this RFQ covers project 1, project 2, project 3. And so that can make it a little confusing. Those we call parent-child exceptions. If you have active modifications and amendments in progress, you also have an exception. A little bit about modifications and amendments. Now, this is where I do have a problem. It has cost us $1 million of time to do amendments and modifications. And that makes me mad because I spent 2021 and 2022 and good part of 2023 sitting down with everybody I knew, helping make sure their applications were good, talking about projects, going over details, giving folks a narrow tunnel. Don't think about it too hard. Just focus on critical needs. Just replace your old lines. In 2024, in the past 90 days, $1 million. And you know what that does, right? Why does it make me mad? Because the same people that do reimbursements have to deal with all of this. And I cannot tell you how many grants have had 5, 6, 7 modifications and amendments. Don't be a victim of somebody else's poor planning, right? Make a decision, make good decisions for your utility, and don't let them heat with your stuff. If you don't know, right? If you don't know and your project has gone through all of this, that means you're not doing proper communication with your engineer or with your utility operator or with your grant administrator. We have grants that have the same proposal, copy and pasted, because the grant administrator is like, well, I couldn't get a hold of the commissioners or utility operator, and so I don't know what they're doing. So I just, I know they wanted the money. That's unacceptable. You need to be in it to win it, folks. If you want that $500,000, you need to make sure that you know what your project is and get it done. So this right here does make me upset. We're no longer accepting modifications and amendments. I have stated no more. Everybody should be on the path to procure. You should have contracts in place. Every single project that's already started, it has to end in plans and specifications at a minimum. And next summer, when all those plans and specifications have to be reviewed and approved, and everybody that isn't in construction has to move to construction, I'll consider modifications then, because you're going to come to me and say, I had 3 projects, I put them out to bid. One of them came in really, really high. I need to focus on the 2 that didn't, and I need to move my capital budget over to the other 2 so we can cover all of those costs. But that 3rd one still has plans and specs approved. So you got to some finish point, even though you didn't get all the way. But other than that, you have to go to David Sawyer's. You have to call up David Sawyer's and say, I need a modification and amendment because, and I mean this seriously, the number of calls and emails, $1 million. Do you know how much FTE you need to do to burn through $1 million in like 90 days, 6 months? It's a crazy amount of money. And that means the focus is off of doing other good customer service like reimbursements. So TDEC continues to evaluate all grants and all projects that are unable to meet each milestone against the known risk factors. We urge grantees to take immediate and decisive action to make sure you're meeting it by December 31st, 2024. Failure to do so will result in consequences that include the termination of a project and the loss of funding. You won't see me when this happens, right? This won't be me because I'm a softie. We walk away from here and Anthony goes, hey, Vena, and I'll be like, yeah, man, that sounds reasonable. Let's do it, right? Because I understand things get complicated, but it's going to be somebody above me, right? And you're going to get a phone call from them, and they will have less humor than I do. So please, please keep all that money. I want to see that $996.5 million be used because we did a really equitable distribution across the entire state for everybody. I know utility districts kind of got a bit, but if it wasn't for, I will say, TAUD and this meeting itself, right, we would have had all the money only going to counties. We wouldn't have even had the distribution that we have to counties and cities. So, I appreciate all of the input and hard work that you guys are doing. There's a voluntary opt-out, right? Irwin Utilities is like, we may use that 10 million, we may not. They've got about 60 days to figure out what's happening with FEMA. And then they're out of time. And so we might reprogram that 10 million. We'll see. But send us a request. We can take care of it. The next milestone is milestone 4, plans and specifications requirement at 60%. In order for a grantee to meet this milestone, engineers must attest to plans and specifications being at 60% complete in the project annual reporting activity in GMS. They must have a minimum of draft specifications and calculations, preliminary construction schedule, phasing plan, logistics, supplies, a mobilization plan, apply for any necessary permits, or have submitted completed plans and specs to Engineering Services Unit or SWIG reviewed plans and specs into GMS. Don't let your engineers just tell you yes, right? Yeah, I've done that. I used to be a regulator. I was a regulator for like 9 years. I cannot tell you how many times I'm like, those engineers are overworked, stretched too thin, made too many promises. They don't have plans and specs. They're not done yet. They're on the 12-month or 18-month or 24-month train to get them done because they're juggling all these others. Make them show you. I'm not going to make them upload all of this. You should make them show you. Tracking, TDEC will monitor annual reporting activities, non-construction planning design and construction PDC projects are exceptions, right? It's because of the structure of the contract, some of asset management plans had to be put in planning, design, and construction, even though there's no construction or anything. We know this. You guys know this. They are not required to hit the 60% mark. If your end product, if you never plan to go to construction, is just a planning and design project all along, you still have till the end, right, out of your contract term. But if your project includes construction, you must meet that. You must. You must. Full plans and specifications by May 30th, right? We space these milestones out very intentionally. And I was very purposeful about January and 60% because I know I've worked with engineers, my entire career. We get behind. They might not have it done. Keep your finger on the pulse of the progress of your project. Milestone 6, construction activities. You need to start August 30th, 2025. All projects with construction must submit a pre-award procurement bid package, right? Then once you have that bid package, you're going to tell me this is who I want to award. I'm going to give you an ATA. You got the authority to award it. Most of the time, those bids are good for 30 days. Sometimes they're good for 45 or 60, depending on how you did the advertisement and the agreement with the contractors or whatever. But y'all need to sign those contracts, right? After I give you the authority to award so that we can schedule an initial site inspection by November 30th. To verify construction starts, each construction project must have an initial site inspection scheduled by November 30th. If you don't, January 2025 is coming around. You guys know what's going to happen, right? We're going to put you on a list. You're going to be targeted for termination. You won't be talking to me. You'll be talking to Karen Simo. She'll be more than happy to claw back those funds to make sure the state gets to use every single dollar. So, milestone 7, I told you guys, like if you were asset management plan, right? And you're like, I can't start my AMP yet because I don't have all my assets in the ground. That's okay. That's okay. By December 15th, 2025, all remaining procurement required, they must have submit any remaining awarded contracts to third party. All project types. Really, we're talking about asset management plans. Okay? No exceptions. I always say in extreme cases, because every single day I go, no more modifications and amendments. It's no, 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 until it's a yes. The reason why I say yes most of the time is because, yeah, that's a good yes for the citizens of the state of Tennessee. The problems that you're experiencing, inhibit your progress. And if we give you an exception, the citizens will win, right? The citizens will get clean drinking water or another water line or whatever it is. But that is getting really slim pickings, right? Extreme cases only. And yeah, I want to remind you again, this red bold is really, really serious. How should commissioners and mayors support? Meet regularly with grant administrators and project owners to ensure timely progress on the projects. Support navigating local approval processes for procurement activities. As available, attend monthly town halls. I have met with mayors, right? I get a phone call from my commissioner and he says, boy, Senator so-and-so is really mad at you. You are in trouble. You got to go down to Mont Eagle. You got to meet with that senator and that mayor. And they want to sit down and say, why haven't you done this? Why are things taking so long? Most of the time, when I'm called in to have a one-on-one meeting with the community, it's not us. It's not us. It's that grant administrator or that mayor not talking to each other, not understanding what the process is, where you're at in the process, and what the breakdown is, right? Most of the time. So stay informed, stay informed. And when it's our fault, I'll be the first to raise my hand and say, yep, that's us. It's us. I try as hard as I can, but sometimes we fail, right? We take too long, we don't do a good job. It happens. But y'all have responsibility too. You can also keep a little bead on what is happening, keep your finger on the pulse a little more. If you go to TDEC, all you have to do, and this is a live link, but like that video, it probably won't play. TDEC space ARP in the Google. Just do TDEC ARP. It'll bring you to a website. You'll see now it's online, a dashboard right at the top part of the page. You can click on that dashboard and it gives you the overall view, right? Obviously, this is a little old snapshot because we know today we have 137 million in dispersed money in reimbursements paid. So that's a little old, but I can actually click on the county. Is that the county? Which is the county? I'm looking at it. Damn. Whatever, I can't do it. Click on the county, right? And that county will bring up all the grants that are currently active. You can click on a grant in there and it will tell you the projects, right? And it will give you this breakout. The funds that were obligated, the grantees projects submitted, right? That means the procurement stuff. Funds available for reimbursement. That means procurement's approved. So you can find your grant and get all of this detail by going on that website, right? You can also request access to the grant management system, right? Smart, simple TDEC grant management system, but you need to talk to your grant administrator about that if you have one. If you don't have a grant administrator, call us up. Yeah. So we're going to take a 10-minute break. What do you want? 10-minute break, and we'll go over resources. And then I want to talk a little bit about lead service lines. So, yeah, yes, ma'am. All right, average.
Just to remind everybody, we'll do scans after the second part of this session. Okay, so no need to get scanned. We'll do 10-minute break and come back in here and finish out for the day.